Welcome to another Deep Dive Explainer. We're getting right into a massive, adrenaline-fueled epic today. This is a story about betrayal, unstoppable ambition, and a quest for vengeance that literally shakes the heavens. We're going to break down the absolutely wild journey of a man who walks into a lethal realm known as the Tower of the Sun God. And get this, he's not doing it for glory, he's not doing it to become a god himself, he is there for cold, calculated payback. It's an absolute masterclass in chronological storytelling, and we are going to follow our protagonist step by step. Okay, let's dive into this. What actually happens when an elite special forces soldier steps into a mythical tower of gods to avenge his fallen brother? Well, you get John, or as he later becomes known, the masked demon Cain. He is the ultimate protagonist. We're talking about a guy who relies on absolute, ruthless logic and military tactics. No power of friendship tropes here. When he finds out his twin brother was betrayed and killed by the very allies he trusted, John transforms himself into just an unstoppable force. He is completely determined to crush the god's own records for one reason: to tear down his brother's murderers. Section 1. A Brother's Final Message. Every cinematic revenge story needs an inciting incident, right? Ours begins with a single heartbreaking artifact. Imagine this. After 5 years of total dead silence, John receives a box containing his deceased brother's pocket watch. But it's not just a watch. It's a magical diary holding his brother's recorded memories from inside the tower. And what it reveals is just brutal. His brother was this warm, trusting team player who climbed super high only to be utterly broken. The diary records his final, agonizing realization. The woman I loved stabbed me in the heart and left me. Nobody trusted anyone. This specific, horrific betrayal is the fuel that ignites John's cold-blooded drive. He isn't going into the tower to make friends. He is going in to exterminate the corrupt clans that tortured his sibling. Now, John's military background translates perfectly into his RPG style awakening. Because of his innate nature, the system grants him 3 absolutely incredible starting skills. First up is cold-blooded. This allows him to maintain unrealistic logic and makes him immune to brainwashing, even when facing sheer terror. Second is Dragon Eyes, letting him analyze weak points in literally any monster and see right through illusions. And finally, Clairvoyance. This acts as his ultimate guide, letting him hear the recorded memories and warnings of his brother's journey. Armed with these abilities, he burns his military uniform and steps into Floor Zero. Moving into Section 2, Conquering the Deadly Tutorial. To really grasp John's strategy here, we have to look at the contrast between him and his brother. The brother walked a path of warmth, trust, and teamwork, which, tragically, led straight to a knife in the back. So John chooses the exact opposite approach. He walks a path that is strictly cold-blooded and hyper-logical. He operates purely as a solo player, hiding his identity behind a mask. He becomes unstoppable and incredibly ruthless, treating the deadly tutorial less like a survival test and more like a farming ground for his own power. 10. That is the number of reset tickets he buys from a hidden merchant. Imagine draining your own stats to 0 on purpose just to farm the hardest difficulty, because that's exactly what John does. He uses every single stat point he earned surviving the first grueling trap rooms to buy these tickets. He literally drains his own body, rendering it completely defenseless. Why? Purely so he can run the deadly traps over and over again, taking precise damage to rebuild an absolutely flawless, overpowered physique. He endures broken ribs, poison, lethal arrows, all just to max out his pain resistances and base stats before the real game even begins. It's a staggering display of willpower. And all this absolute insanity builds into one of the most brilliant tactical boss fights in the entire story. The top-ranked players in the tutorial are trying to hunt this legendary hidden boss, the Akasa Serpent. John decides to completely hijack their quest. Step 1, he intentionally incites a massive riot among the tutorial's monster tribes, feeding their souls to the serpent so it grows twice its normal size. Step 2, while the monster is distracted fighting those top players, he sneaks into its frozen lair and devours a 300-year-old mythical humanoid root. This grants him a dragon body and magic. Step 3, he swoops into the chaotic battlefield, leaps onto the giant serpent's back, and uses a devour skill to extract its massive core. And this brilliantly illustrates exactly how his calculated risks pay off in staggering ways. By waiting for the top-ranked siblings of the Horn tribe to weaken the monster, and then just swooping in to steal the final blow, John secures a record-breaking haul. He steals 109,000 ranking points in an instant, and he finishes the tutorial with 500,000 karma. To put that into perspective, that's the highest score in tutorial history. It's a number the administrators thought was literally impossible. He absolutely secures first place, cementing his status as a super rookie.
All right, Section 3, Forging the Demon's Path.
With the tutorial conquered, the real climb begins. Upon clearing the beginner floors, John earns the right to enter Olympus's treasury. Now, while he's in there searching for a weapon, this mysterious, chained bracelet violently wraps itself around his arm. It's the Black King's bracelet, an unknowable mythological artifact. This single item is a real game changer. It fundamentally transforms his combat style. It allows him to bind and command the souls of the dead. So every enemy he defeats, every corrupt player he executes, can now be raised as a loyal shadow soldier in his undead army. He's no longer just a solo fighter. He is a one-man legion.
Armed with his crazy new power and some custom armor crafted by his brother's old friend, the dwarven blacksmith Hanova, John becomes an absolute terror under the alias Cain. He goes on to achieve the fastest ascent in tower history. He completely shatters his own brother's old records, clearing the 10th floor and beating the previous mark by a massive 83 hours. And then, in this chilling display of total focus, when he's given the chance to etch his name into the tower's history, he rejects the honor. He leaves only his brother's legacy intact.
Which brings us to Section 4, Fall of the Dragon Queen. Climbing isn't enough anymore. The people who murdered his brother are at the top, and John is bringing a world-altering clan war right to their doorstep. The true scope of his vengeance comes to light when he targets the Blue Sword Clan. They were one of the 8 great clans that betrayed his brother. He discovers they're running these horrific human farms, literally luring low-level players to harvest their souls and bodies for alchemy, trying to create a philosopher's stone. John shows absolutely zero mercy here. He obliterates their scavenger teams, cuts down their high-ranking clan leaders, burns their horrific labs to the ground, and reclaims stolen materials to bring back to Unova. It's a brutal, systematic dismantling of his enemy's power base. And this sparks an epic, fast-paced climax to the middle arc of the story, the Draken War. John's actions ripple out and trigger massive conflicts. The witches, armed with the artificial philosopher's stones that John helped intercept, deploy them as literal meteor weapons. In the chaos of all that, the reigning apex predator of the tower, the Summer Queen, falls in battle. This huge power vacuum plunges Floor 72 into a chaotic, bloody civil war among her 9 children for the Red Dragon throne. John has effectively destroyed the strongest beings in the tower, just by pulling the right strings from the shadows.
Section 5, War in the Underworld. As the tower burns above, our protagonist descends below, stepping into the literal realm of the dead. On Floor 30, John has to cross the River of the Dead. Most players pay a ferryman for a random, highly dangerous boat ride, but doing things the normal way just isn't John's style. He rejects the ferryman entirely. Instead, he emits an aura of such intense fear that he literally paralyzes the giant lava serpents swimming in the boiling fire. Then, in an incredibly cinematic move, he uses the terrified, paralyzed monsters as living stepping stones. He literally walks across the boiling lava by subjugating the underworld through pure, unadulterated intimidation.
So, the crucial point is what happens next. The true Floor 30 trial isn't a monster. It's a brutal, psychological battle against identical copies of himself. And these aren't just mere clones. Each one possesses his exact same memories, his exact same overpowered skills, and those exact same hoarder instincts. He has to outsmart his own tactical genius, navigating this literal search for his real self among reflections that are totally convinced they are the original. To beat a perfect mirror of himself, John has to do the unthinkable. He removes his mask, shuts off his emotions, and literally begins carving away his own humanity to win. He starts asking questions, and the moment a copy shows even a flicker of emotion or hesitation, he stabs them. It's a deeply haunting scene. Even his newly hatched dragon companion watches in mourning as John sheds his last bits of human feeling, reducing himself to a cold, calculating machine just to survive this mirror match and continue his path of vengeance. Which brings us to the ultimate question of this explainer. John has conquered the tutorial, broken the gods' records, toppled the dragon queens, and even conquered his own mind in the underworld. But as a larger war brews in the afterlife, we have to ask, can John complete the Black King artifact set and finally bring his brother's soul back? Or will his absolute cold-blooded thirst for vengeance turn him into the very monsters he's hunting? It is a phenomenal high-stakes cliffhanger that leaves you completely hungry to dive into the manhwa and read it for yourself. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and I'll catch you next time as we continue to break down the most fascinating stories out there.